What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and today we have a video for the Dynasty Sickos. We're going to talk through, review, and showcase 10 of my own Dynasty teams. We're going to talk through what work still needs to be done heading into week one, what kind of trades I want to be making between now and then, the trades I've already made this month. We're going to talk through, I think, 14 trades that I've made this month with these teams. We're going to talk through how I've spent my rookie draft picks this month, literally every single one mapped out. And then also, I just got done with a startup with the patrons. We started it last month. It wrapped up during the draft, and then we just had our rookie draft. That will also be in this video. So this is full transparency. I feel like very few creators actually take you behind the curtain and show you how their teams are doing and sort of look through the entire portfolio. But that's what we're going to do today. One, for transparency, and then two, honestly, for selfish reasons. It's tough to justify this much time spent on my Dynasty teams if it's not for content. So this is a nice way of killing two birds with one stone, where I can fix my Dynasty teams heading into week one and then also show you guys where I'm at. So with all that being said, if you enjoy, make sure down below, subscribe, leave a like. Let's go.
Yes, stones, like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm frozen. She gon' let me.
Now, with these teams, I have them all uploaded into a Google Sheet. So you can see here, this is a pretty loaded, screen here. So I'll walk you through it. Also, I've had people ask for the template of this. If you guys ask me enough in the comments, I'll find a way to get you guys like a shared template so you can do that for your own teams as well. Because I think this is a really good way of mapping things out. Now, before we even get into the team, the trades I've made, anything like that, let's just talk through what we're looking at when we look at this, I guess you could call it the picture on the screen. We have, of course, the positions: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Each of them are sorted by keep, trade, cut value, or like roughly keep, trade, cut value. You have the picks that I have heading into the 2025 draft and the 2026 class. You have the key here where, some are soft sells, hard sells, some are cuts. I have the rookies highlighted in yellow with their rookie draft pick next to it. So this team, we took Rattler at the 310, we took Theo Johnson at the 409, A.D. Mitchell 209, Javon Baker 309, Blake Watson at the 509. You have the league format here. So this is Twitter Dynasty Best Ball. This is a league with some analysts out there. It's Jacob Sanderson is in it. I believe Ian Dynasty IM is in there. Akash YZR Fantasy is in there. A bunch of Twitter accounts that you would know. Nelly's in there. Todd is in there. So it's a really competitive league. And then we have the Dynasty Daddy ranks. Now, these, of course, aren't gospel whatsoever, but they're a decent gauge of just kind of where you're at. You can use whatever, I'm sure that there's plenty of subscription-based services out there that'll analyze your league for you. None of them are 100% accurate, but it's at least a decent gauge of where you're at. This one, we're 10th in Dynasty value, so that's taking into account your draft picks, what you look like into the future, and we're 3rd in contending. And this is, again, a half PPR Best Ball Dynasty. Last year, we finished in 5th place. Now, we also have the starting lineup here with underdog position ranks. I think it's important to know where are you at heading into 2024 in terms of competing. Even for rebuilders, I think it's worth looking through and just seeing where you're at. Because in a perfect world, you have like, in Superflex especially, you have like a QB1, so like a top 12 quarterback, maybe like a top 24 guy here. You would like to have a couple studs, like McCaffrey would qualify as that. I want a couple of guys that are going in like round 1 of underdog drafts. I will say, by the way, we use underdog ADP for this just so you can get a gauge here. So, you have Trevor Lawrence QB15, McCaffrey RB1. It's a weird format too, where it's only a 1 running back best ball league. Then you have Devontae Adams, who's the wide receiver 13, Metcalf. So everything looks about right. Quarterback is probably the weak spot with this team. We have Christian Kirk in the flex, we have Kupp in the flex, Kenneth Walker in the flex, Hopkins in the flex, and then still on the bench as well, you have Tony Pollard, who's not even in the mix here, Khalil Herbert off the bench, and then you also have the rookies off the bench, and that's kind of it. And then Njoku as well, in a tight end premium, especially Happy VR tight end premium, he can find his way into the flex spot as well in a best ball. Now, of course, when we're talking through these underdog rankings, make sure you check it out. Underdog Fantasy. I'll have a link in the description. I'll have a link in the comment section down below. If you use promo code RON, they have a new offer out right now, where if you use promo code RON, you will get a special pick in the Pick'em lobby. You have, of course, NHL, NBA playoffs, where you can go higher or lower on all of their projections. You get pretty much a freebie when you use promo code RON. And then on top of that, they will match 50% of your deposit up to $250. So if you deposit $500, you get $250 bonus. something more, you know, in a more reasonable range, maybe you put in 100, they'll give you 50. You put in 25, 12.50. So just half of whatever your deposit is, they will match with promo code Ron. And you can hop in underdog drafts right now. We're streaming best ball drafts every single Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, usually like 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. But with this team, pretty much what we're going to talk through, where the team is, where I want it to go. We didn't have a lot of draft capital here. I think I pretty much had to trade my late first to get into Trevor Lawrence, but not bad return on the rookie draft. We got A.D. Mitchell. We got Javon Baker. Now, this is one of my favorite things to do when I'm on the clock. I'm not a huge fan of trading up. I'm probably one of the worst when it comes to, you know, keeping your finger on the pulse of the rookie draft. Because if a guy starts slipping, you want to come up and trade up for that guy. But the issue is a lot of the times if a guy's falling, let's say you really like Ladd McConkey and he falls to the 204. Now you want to try and trade up to the 204. Well, the owner that's on the clock at 204 knows Ladd McConkey's falling, knows you want to get him, and now you're not paying for the 204. You're still just paying for Ladd McConkey. So I don't know. Sometimes you can get a bargain, right? If like everybody is out on said player and you can come in and scoop him up late. But I've not been someone that has traded up a ton of drafts. I'm usually someone trading down, but when I do trade up, it's in this scenario where I'm sitting on the clock at the 309, and there's two players I really want. In this scenario, it was Javon Baker and Spencer Rattler. So I hit up the guy who was at the 310, and this is what I do. Honestly, you can do this in rookie drafts. You can do this in startups. This is probably my favorite way to trade up. Is if you have two guys in a massive tier break, squat on that pick, and while you're on the clock, hit up the guy that's to the next of you, and you can maybe go to that next owner as well. But if you can get that 310, right? So I'm sitting at the 309. You can get that 310. You can get both the players you want at a pretty reasonable price, right? We're talking like we're in the third round here. So all I had to give up in this league was I gave my 2025 third, which is Jacob's 2025 third, and $15 to come up to the 310 and get Spencer Rattler. Now, I know I already have Derek Carr. I don't really care about stacking quarterbacks. It's a best ball league. Dalen Jones and Derek Carr, you know, you can Frankenstein your way to QB2 production there, but I was really just getting Rattler as just another upside bet at quarterback. I need upside bets here. I need to kind of miraculously stumble into a Sam Howell type of quarterback here where I can either trade off of him or I can just use his points, because outside of Trevor Lawrence, we're looking pretty weak. So I felt that was worth moving up. And then also I had 225 thirds. So you can see here, I still have my 2025 third. I don't have a second, but I have all my picks in 2026. So not bad, right? So we lock up Javon Baker. It was really important to me in a best ball to get some young upside shots at wide receiver, because we are aging here, right? Devontae Adams, Kupp, Kirk, Hopkins, all very old. Or Kirk's not very old, but you get what I'm saying. Like, these guys are on the other side of their prime. So I wanted to sort of backfill that position. We get Theo Johnson. I think that he was just a value in the fourth round for me there. And then Blake Watson as well, just another value play that I didn't mind. Now, when we talk about this team heading into 2024, I could not lift a finger and this team would be fine, right? It's third in contending value. But what I will say is this is a very fragile team, right? Where if like CMC gets hurt or CMC busts or, you know, Devontae and Kupp fall off the age cliff, I need to act fast with this team. So this team is very fragile is what I'm trying to say. It does have, of course, you know, McCaffrey. It has Devontae Adams. It has a really deep roster through the flex, right? Again, where Njoku's not starting in the flex. A.D. Mitchell and Javon Baker will have opportunity to get in there. Pollard, Khalil Herbert, all of that. So there's upside through the flex, but if McCaffrey goes down, this kind of becomes a very mid team that's sort of just getting held up by McCaffrey. So we live and die by McCaffrey. If McCaffrey sucks, the rest of this team sucks. If I get off to like a 2-4 start, this will need to be a team that I am proactive and I just dump everything, pretty much strip down everything besides like Metcalf, the rookies, and Trevor Lawrence. Strip everything down and just sort of pour that value into draft capital in the future. Now, the next team we'll talk through is a fun one. This is BSMT, Return of the King. I am a nerd at heart, so that is a play on Lord of the Rings. Shout out Lord of the Rings, one of the best trilogies of all time. And this was a new startup draft here. We got the 12 spot, which absolutely sucks. I mean, the 12 spot's not brutal, but it's not great. I would have liked to have gotten Caleb Williams. I would have liked to have gotten anything else. Starting your draft, Anthony Richardson isn't, like, it's not the end of the world, but it's not as fun as the other quarterbacks and, you know, guys like Jamar Chase and Jefferson. It's just not all that sexy. So when you start at the 12 spot, it's hard to compete out of the gate or have a strong team out of the gate. So I will be honest, I haven't done a productive struggle in a while because I don't see it as a plus EV bet where you are just throwing buy-ins into the fire. And then also in that like 20, when I first started doing this from like 2020 through like 2022, it was all the hotness, especially because you had the 2023 class and the like the 2022 through the 20, or honestly like the 2021 through like the 2024 classes, outside of the Malik Willis class, which I want to say is 2022, like pretty much your Trevor Lawrence class was huge, your Jonathan Taylor class was huge, and then this past class, 2024, was huge. So it was always in vogue to do a productive struggle. So I was always just like, you know what, we're going to compete instead. Here, I decided, you know what, let's go productive struggle. Because the way that this startup draft sort of started here for me wasn't all that great, right? So we go Richardson, then we go these kickers, by the way. I always get these comments. The kickers are rookie picks. And you can see I'm on the side. I didn't do any trading up. I just stuck and picked, or I traded down and traded picks away for rookie picks. So we go Richardson. We go the 102. I think this is the 104. And then this is like the 107 or something. So we have like 3 2024 rookie picks plus Andy Richardson. So at that point, I was like, okay, we can sort of get away with starting to just punt in 2024. Because it was pretty clear I wasn't going to compete in 2024. So why not tank for this 2025 class, maybe get some 2026 draft capital. And this is what we do here, right? So we go Richardson, we go rookie picks. Then I did take Rashee Rice here. I ended up trading him. We go JSN, Jaden Reed, Deontay Johnson, DeAndre Swift. To kind of piece together like a 0 RB team, we go Derrick Henry. But we end up selling both of them. So we sell Derrick Henry. This one, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes these are gifts, I'll be honest. Like, I don't know. But I will say this isn't a Patreon league. But I got a 2026 first for Derrick Henry and my 13th round pick, which ended up being Michael Wilson. So Derrick Henry and Michael Wilson in the spot I'm in, like maybe like a 2026 first for a contender. You could justify paying that price. Even still, I wouldn't love paying a 26 first for a guy like Derrick Henry. I've kind of adapted the strategy that if I'm trading away a future first in any capacity, I'm not doing it for a piece. I'm doing it for like a top 2 startup round type of guy. Like I want a real difference maker, because you can look back on this trade, right? Like Derrick Henry, Michael Wilson, and that 2026 pick ends up being like the 103. And you really kick yourself for what happened there. And then we also did the so this was like when Rashee Rice, this was before Rashee Rice hitting the camera person, but right after. Like I picked him at the 512 here, or the 501 here. Like pretty much, I got unlucky. It was like right around when the car crash video came out. Somebody was trying to lowball me. I had people like trying to send me seconds because they knew I wasn't competing. And I was like, I'm just fine sitting on Rashee Rice. And then someone sent me a 2026 first. We're going to actually do a video, probably not this week, but next week on the 2026 class. It's too far out to really say anything too crazy about the 2026 class, but it does look fine is really what I would call it. So I don't mind just pushing all my value into 2026. I'm not going to compete in 2024. And if people are holding on to those 2025 picks just because of what I said, you don't really want to trade future first and you look back and you hate it. But right now is probably the best time to get 2026 firsts. I know I'm saying a lot of 2025 and 2026, but 2026 is so far out. People are like, oh, those picks aren't even really real. And I do have confidence in a Patreon league. None of my Patreon leagues have folded since I've started doing them. So I'm fine trading away stuff for 2026 first, knowing that this league is going to stick around for as long as I'm talking into a microphone, really. And then we had 2 trades that we did during the rookie draft. So I go into the rookie draft. Okay, so that Bullock pick here, I go into the rookie draft with the 102, the 104, and the 108. And this is how we played it. We ended up with Drake May at the 104, which, his ADP is more like the 106, but in my Patreon leagues, I'm just not going to get him any later than that. So I got him at the 104. I got Marvin Harrison Jr. at the 102. I figured, you know what? We don't have any real firepower at wide receiver. Why not get Marvin Harrison Jr., who's going to hold value and be kind of a cornerstone for this team? And then I traded away the 108, which I didn't mind the 108. I could have taken Rome Odunze. I will say I didn't include my Devi league in this video because there's not really a need to. Devi is like so niche that there's no reason to bring it up. But I drafted Rome Odunze at the 102 in a Devy depleted draft, right? Because in Devy, everyone is holding on to players like Caleb Williams and whatever. Rome Odunze slipped through the cracks. He wasn't drafted, so I took him at the 102 in the depleted rookie draft in Devy. So I wasn't like all that sad about missing out on Odunze, and this is what we ended up trading him away for. Because again, at this point, I'm in the mode of, okay, I know for sure after the Derrick Henry deal, after the Rashee Rice deal, not competing in 2024, we are looking forward towards the future. And here, I trade away my Deontay Johnson, my Cole Kmet, who I've said for a while, I'm dying to sell Cole Kmet. I cannot see a world where he produces. They bring in, right, the Chicago Bears bring in Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator, who had a 3 tight end rotation of like Noah Fant, Will Dissly, and like Colby Parkinson. He always loves to use heavy tight end personnel, and even if that doesn't scare you off, they already have Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. There's not enough targets for Cole Kmet to be a real true difference maker. And then on top of that, he's not a special athlete. He's never really produced at a high level. So if I could sell him in any capacity, I will. I will say, though, this is a 1.75 tight end premium. So he gets a little bit of a boost there. But because of that, I was cool selling him. I will say this owner was the Caleb owner. So he's stacking him to Kmet. He's stacking him to the 108 being Rome Odunze. And then I give him Deontay Johnson, which I like Deontay Johnson, but in this build where I'm not trying to compete, I'm fine trading off of Deontay. I get the 202, which becomes Keon Coleman. We get younger. He has a ton of upside there, so I was cool taking that upside shot on Keon Coleman. And then we get a 2025 first and a 2026 first. Now we just have like a treasure chest of assets. We have 2 2025 firsts and 4 2026 firsts. So we are sitting pretty with 6 future firsts in the next 2 draft classes. This is how you do a productive struggle in my book. Then after missing out, so I really wanted that 108 to be Bowers because, again, this is a 1.75 tight end premium. But we miss out on Bowers, so we trade the pick. And then what I decided to do to kind of replenish the tight end spot, because in a 1.75 tight end premium, you really want to have some kind of answer at tight end. So we took 2 high upside swings is what I would call them, right? We get Greg Dulcich, and then we get Ben Sinnott at the 209, which again, in a 1.75 tight end premium, I was fine taking Ben Sinnott that high. I traded away Adam Thielen, who's like a nothing, and then DeAndre Swift, who in this build, I don't want DeAndre Swift, and if I can get some kind of, right, like I'm not really even factoring in Thielen. I think a second and Dulcich in a 1.75 tight end premium, I think that's fine. And Ben Sinnott has, to me, a higher ceiling than DeAndre Swift value-wise in a tight end premium. That's this heavy. So this is a fun team again. We're pretty much kicking, like we're kicking the can down the road. We're not competing this season. I wouldn't mind, like this team is pretty gutted already, but I wouldn't mind. I have Tyler Boyd and Derek Carr highlighted in red. If we find ourselves middle of the season and either of them are doing anything, I would love to sell them for seconds or really whatever I can get. But this team's already stripped down a pretty good bit. So there's really not much more on my plate here. Now, the next team we're going to talk about, this is a league called Too Lazy to Set Lineups. This is a best ball dynasty league with the Stock Exchange boys. You have Danny, you got Bush in there, you got the Notorious Fantasy. Nick is in there. Anybody else that you guys would know? I don't think so. But it's a fun league. It's a best ball league. And it's very interesting how this team has come about. I have no picks. I finished 3rd in points for last year. I will say, Dynasty, I had an unlucky year. We didn't win any championships last year, but I have documented all of my leagues. Last year, I got unlucky. I think I made the playoffs in like 8 leagues, didn't win any of them. The year before that, though, we won like 3 of 10 Dynasty leagues. So a lot of those teams were still competing, just didn't get it done in the end. But with this team, this was another one that felt bad, right? We finished 3rd in points for. We couldn't get it done in the championship. We don't have all we got was Spencer Rattler at the 410. We had nothing else, no 2025 picks. Everything is pushed forward until 2026, and that's because I made a trade with Bush that I still really like value-wise, but it puts my team in a really weird spot where I have no future capital, and things could get ugly if things don't break my way. And this was the trade. We did it in the middle of the season. It was right after C.J. Stroud popped off because I didn't have a C.J. Stroud share. This was a team where I was competing, but with the Aaron Rodgers injury, it was really Goff, and then I had nothing going for me at quarterback. So I sent my Justin Jefferson, the 2024 pick that ended up being the 108, a 2024 pick that ended up being the 208, the 2025 first, and a 2025 second. And I got Josh Reynolds, which is funny. I guess in a best ball, I was like, okay, I'll just take Josh Reynolds. I got Kyron Williams, which has looked really good, Bijan, and CJ Stroud. So essentially, Justin Jefferson, 2 firsts and 2 seconds. You can pretty much cancel out. I mean, it's tough. I mean, Jefferson in a first probably gets you to Stroud. So then we're talking like a first and 2 seconds for Bijan, Kyron, and Reynolds. Like, I made out in terms of value here, but the team, again, is strapped for, draft capital at this point. But that's not like a terrible, terrible spot to be, right? Where this team looks good in terms of where it is contending. It's first in contending value, third in dynasty value. We have Stroud, McCaffrey, Bijan, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Nico Collins. This is where the team's a little bit weak, though. We don't have, we have a fall off from at wide receiver. I usually like to have deep wide receiver rooms. This one is pretty rough, where it's Amon-Ra, it's Nico, and then we drop down to wide receiver 46 on underdog with Hopkins. That's kind of the goal for this team. Ideally, I would sell off one of these 3 running backs, McCaffrey, Kyron, or Rachaad White, and I would go get, probably Kyron or Rachaad White would be more my speed, and I would go get some kind of wide receiver, right? Like really anything. It could be, I'm trying to think of who would kind of be in that range. I will say I sent a trade today. I don't think it's going to get accepted. I would love to pair Goff, and I don't like Goff, but I'm trying to say I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. But if I have to move off of Goff to move, if I have to move off of Amon-Ra St. Brown to get Goff off this roster, I would love that. So what I've been trying to do is pairing Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and McCaffrey to a team that maybe needs a running back and could maybe use a quarterback and try and get something in return. I think I offered Goff, McCaffrey, Amon-Ra for Jamar Chase, a future first, DJ Moore, and Geno Smith. I don't think that's going to get accepted. I'd be willing to take that DJ Moore down to Mike Evans, but I don't think that that'll get accepted. But those are the kind of deals I'm trying to do here. That's something else that I've learned in Dynasty, man, is, again, I don't view Amon-Ra as a sell, but if I have to add him to Goff to get Goff off a roster, I will, because I think Goff is one of the more overvalued assets. I would just prefer to tear down from Goff to a Geno Smith, but in a best ball with sharp players, a lot of them are analysts, none of them are going for Goff. And then I see on Twitter people getting future first for Goff. If I send Goff for a random 25 first to every team in this league, I think it would get rejected 11 times. So that's kind of where I'm at with Goff and this team. But the team, again, it looks good. I just have to get creative with these running backs and Goff. Look, in a perfect world, I get rid of a running back. I get rid of Goff. If I have to get rid of Amon-Ra St. Brown, I will. And then I get some more wide receiver depth. Where after Nico Collins, we fall off a cliff here. I would love really anything. I would love a Devontae Adams. I wouldn't mind a Metcalf or a T. Higgins, just something out there in that range. And then we also have good tight ends in McBride, Goddard. I wouldn't mind moving off of Goddard, but nobody's really paying up for him at this point. But again, this is one of those teams where I could pretty much not do anything, and it could be good to go for week 1. But there are some things I'd like to do. I'd like to replenish my draft capital, and I'd like to get rid of maybe one of these running backs and definitely Goff. Now, the next team here we'll talk about, this is a really fun league. This is the Basement World Cup. I might add another league to this. Right now, this is 4 leagues, all best ball, and the playoffs work where the playoffs of all 4 leagues join up, so there's one overall winner. It's like a $50 buy-in, but first place overall, the player who pretty much scores the most points in the playoffs among the playoff teams gets $1,000. So it's probably my favorite format that I play in. And of course, I went all in year 1. Team ended up being trash. So we kind of stripped it down, and we've been rebuilding. The issue is that when you have a tournament like this, it creates spots where teams are actively trying to make juggernauts, because you need to not only be the best team out of 12 teams, you need to be the best team out of 48 teams. So it's really tough to compete in this league. But we went into this draft. We had been rebuilding. Last year we finished 10th, so we had the 103. It's a best ball league. Again, the tournament. We have the 4th best dynasty value, 8th best contending team. So it's not a beautiful, beautiful team. We're starting to get in the right direction. Again, we've been rebuilding. I will say in a rebuild, I'm kicking myself for not selling Sam Howell at his peak during this year. And then we just used a ton of rookie picks in this. We used 103 on Malik Neighbors. We used the 107 on J.J. McCarthy, which I was fine, especially in a best ball. I think it's fine to have 3 really good quarterbacks in a best ball, because it'll just start the best 2 every week, right? So McCarthy, to me, was a worthwhile upside swing. We got Xavier Worthy at 110. We got Keon Coleman at 203, Ladd McConkey at 204. So we have completely replenished wide receiver there, hoping, one of these 3 really pops off. Then we got another great price on Trey Benson at 207. We got Benson out at 210. And then we got a bunch of dart throws of like Jalen Wright at 303 and then Kamani Vidal at 403. Now, this team's in an interesting spot. We have 225 firsts. We have all of our 26 firsts. But it's a little bit of a tweener, right? 8th best contending value. I don't know that this is a playoff team. When we look through, we have Kyler at QB1. We have Herbert at QB2, which is good. We have JT. It's kind of a hero RB build. The issue really is the wide receivers, right? Neighbors, wide receiver 20, wide receiver 32, wide receiver 39. So that's kind of the tough part. We would need a rookie wide receiver to really step up, but it is a best ball. So it wouldn't be all that shocking to get like decent scores from those guys. So I think really what it comes down to for me is probably letting things play out for the first like 4 to 6 weeks and then deciding from there if it's time to kick the can down the road to 2025 at that point. Because again, I usually like doing rebuilds in like 1 year turnaround. But in a league like this where there's juggernauts and you're trying to have the very best team of 48 teams, it's not terrible to, throw out a $25 buy-in when we're chasing a $1,000 overall prize where you need to have a juggernaut team. So that's kind of where my head's at. I wouldn't mind seeing if these rookie wide receivers, outperform expectations. Maybe we trade one of these 2025 firsts and sort of go all in. But I think really where my gut is I'll probably end up trading Jonathan Taylor, trading George Kittle to contending teams, trying to then another 2025 first, maybe another 2026 first, and then looking to compete in 2025. So we'll see how things go there. But that's going to be the decision point of if I should sort of build around JT and Kittle or if it's time for them to go and we look towards 2025, which is where I'm sort of leaning here. But I wouldn't mind giving it a few weeks during the season, or unless if I get really good prices on Taylor or Kittle, I wouldn't mind selling them as well. Now, the next team we're going to talk through, 12 guys, 1 baseman. This is an OG Patreon league we started a while back, and this is my best team by far. I don't know. I should maybe do a video on how I built this team, but it's honestly, it's such a stacked team that I almost feel bad for the people in it. Now, I will say I didn't even win last year. Shout out Zach Monty. He's someone that's always in streams. He's someone that, there's a couple guys where I've been playing in these Patreon leagues. There's a couple guys out there. I know their sleeper username, and it's like, okay, that guy knows what he's doing. Zach Monty's one of those guys. I thought I was pretty much a shoo-in to win last year, and I did not, right? This is a crazy team, right? We have Josh Allen, McCaffrey, Pacheco, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Njoku, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Malik Neighbors, Jalen Hurts, and then we also even have, Devontae Smith is off the bench on this team, and then you also have, Baker and Geno behind Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen. It's just a monstrous team. First in contending value, second in dynasty value. Again, it's easily my best team. Still somehow, even with the starting lineup, has its first intact, has 2 2026 firsts. It's just a crazy looking team. Now, I will say, there's going to be a couple trades in this video we talk through where sometimes you just get a gift. Sometimes someone offers you a trade and it doesn't really make a ton of sense to you, but you just sort of have to accept it. I'm not going to act like I'm the best dynasty player in the world for accepting this trade. I didn't even engineer it. This was just put in my inbox for a guy that was trying to compete in this league. And I hate to say it because this is one of my patrons, a guy who's in this league, a subscriber of mine. So I hate to air things out because it makes me a less desirable trade partner in the future. You guys, no one's going to want to trade with me because unless if you are winning that trade handedly, you don't want to get aired out and make it look like you got fleeced. Now, I don't know. You guys can be the judge. To me, this was a really easy accept button. He sent out of the blue. I didn't have a 2024 first. Yeah, I didn't have a 2024 first. And this guy sends me my Derrick Henry and Kyron Williams for his 104. I had been trying to get rid of running backs, right? I already had McCaffrey, I already had Pacheco. So Derrick Henry and Kyron Williams. There's two, I don't need 4 different really good running backs. So if you wanted to take two of them off of my hands, and then I can get younger at wide receiver when I have some aging players like, Stephon Diggs and Devontae Adams, sign me up. I will say I got on top of that trade, I got a gift of Jaden Daniels going 103, right? This team obviously does not need Jaden Daniels or Drake May, right? We have Allen, Hurts, Baker, Geno. That's perfect. You could even argue I should maybe trade off of Baker or Geno, but we get, or actually, you know what? I'll do on the fly. We'll highlight this light red. I think Baker's actually a decent sell in this setup just because he's never going to hit the lineup, and he's trading like a 7th or 8th round startup value. But the other gift, again, like I said, Jaden Daniels went 103, so we got a Malik Neighbors 104 share. which is really, really fun. And then what else did we do in this draft? Everything else was late, right? We got Theo Johnson. I didn't mind that because we only have Njoku at tight end. Like, that's the one flaw with this team is the tight end is weak. I'd like to have a better tight end than Njoku. So, Theo Johnson and Jaheim Bell are just kind of upside swings, hoping one of them can maybe be the next like hidden gem tight end. Won't hold my breath on that. Could definitely be talked into making some kind of trade for a better tight end. I just don't feel all the pressure as of right now. Like I'll highlight this light red. I could go like Njoku plus Baker and try to upgrade there. I don't even really like Kraft, or not Kraft. I don't really even like Kincaid, but a Kincaid to Allen stack I could be talked into. But again, I could not lift a finger, and this team would be the favorite for a championship despite having a 25 first and two 2026 first. So again, just a crazy looking team. Maybe I will make a video eventually about how I built that thing. And then next up, we have the Founding Fathers. This is, I believe, the first ever Patreon league. My team's been okay in it. It's not like the best team of all time, but it's a contender that's sitting pretty. This is a very cookie cutter 12-team Superflex tight end premium Dynasty league. We have the fourth best Dynasty value, third best contender. So we're sitting in a good spot, right? We're contending. We have all of our picks. We have Dynasty value. So this is a really solid team. Again, it can contend right away here. Hurts, Gibbs, Achane, CeeDee Lamb, stacked to Dak Prescott there. We have Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, a lot of 49ers here. Nico Collins, Chris Godwin, Tony Pollard, and that's not to mention Jacoby Myers off the bench. We still have like Kamani Vidal here. So it's a very, very fun team. Now, again, this trade here, I'm not going to pretend that I engineered. This was another gift. I think this is probably like even value-wise, but I'm always dying to get Goff off of my teams, and on this team especially, this made a ton of sense here. I'm trying to find the trade. Yeah, so I get Dak Prescott for Devontae Adams and Jared Goff. That's a huge upgrade at QB2 to Dak. He stacks the CeeDee Lamb, and we get Goff out of here. I didn't mind getting Devontae Adams off of this team either. I actually think Devontae Adams is a buy at this current price that he's at in Dynasty, but I got CeeDee Lamb, Ayuk, Nico Collins, Debo Samuel. So we have 4 wide receivers in the top 15 of underdog ADP. Losing Devontae Adams isn't the end of the world for me. Chris Godwin in the flex, Tony Pollard in the flex is fine. Like, I could use another flex guy, but again, we still have Jacoby Myers off the bench. We still have Brian Robinson off the bench. We're sitting in a pretty good spot there. If I have to make a move later on in the season to get, something deeper in the flex spot, I could, but I could not lift a finger and be fine. I will say as well, we did make this trade here, which ended up being Ben Sinnott. Somebody just sent me out of the blue. They wanted Khalil Herbert. They were sending me their 301. I said, all right, sounds good to me. I don't need Khalil Herbert, right? We have Gibbs, Achane, Brian Robinson, Tony Pollard. Khalil Herbert wasn't really doing anything for me, so we get Ben Sinnott, somebody that can kind of fill in once Kittle's time is done, which just feels like it's sooner rather than later, as sad as that might be. Now, the next team we'll talk through here, Dear Ryan and Joe, thank you. That's like an inside joke with this league, but it's another Patreon Dynasty league. This was started around the same time as 12 Guys One Basement, and this team is fun. Now, this is where the thumbnail of this video is probably going to be that I traded the 101, and this is where I did it. Now, I will be honest, I regret trading away the 101 for the simple fact that I don't have a single Caleb Williams share, which doesn't feel good at all in Dynasty. But I was in a very weird spot with this team where I had Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, and I was sitting on the 101. So that's 4 premium quarterbacks. That's not a very efficient use of your roster value. Now, I don't know. You can certainly hoard quarterbacks if you want to, but I'm much more of the idea of like when it's time to contend, there's no reason to hoard that many. I would really rather have 2 premium quarterbacks and then another upside swing as like my 3 quarterbacks. That's what I'm gunning for. So I made this deal where I traded away the 101 and Justin Herbert. I think it's even. I think I'm maybe even winning this trade. Again, it just sucks that I don't have a Caleb share, but I trade away Herbert, the 101, which is Caleb, and the 110, which has been an area of the draft I don't really want anything to do with. And then I get Jalen Hurts, Breece Hall, so an RB1 in Breece Hall, a really, really good quarterback in Jalen Hurts, and then the 107 in return, which the 107 becomes J.J. McCarthy. So now the team goes from those 4 top quarterbacks to now being Jalen Hurts, Anthony Richardson, and J.J. McCarthy, which to me, that's the perfect trio, right? Hurts is a super premium guy. Anthony Richardson is a super premium guy with all the upside in the world, but if he's Trey Lance, we have somebody in behind him, J.J. McCarthy, where J.J. McCarthy can develop and be that guy, and if he ends up being really, really good and he can't hit the lineup, then I can just sell him for premium quarterback prices of like a top 24 startup pick. So I really like that a ton. And then also Breece Hall, we get our RB1 and kind of like the start of a hero RB build type of dynasty team. Now also we got rid of Kyler. Remember, we also had Kyler before that trade. We do Kyler and Kyle Pitts. I had the 108. I knew I was getting Brock Bowers. I think it was like on the clock about to pick Brock Bowers. So I trade away Kyle Pitts and Kyler Murray, and I get Jamar Chase. So now we have like a legit RB1. We have a perennial wide receiver 1 in Jamar Chase. We get Kyler out of there. So now we have quarterback set up perfectly. RB1, wide receiver 1, Brock Bowers at tight end. We're feeling good. Now, this is a small deal I made on the clock during the rookie draft, but I sold a 211 for a future second and a future fourth. The rest of the rookie draft, we took Brian Thomas Jr., Xavier Legette, Jalen Polk, Blake Corum, which I think is actually a really nice RB2 in this type of build. And then we also took Luke McCaffrey and Eric All. Now, this is a bit of a weird team here because dynasty value, we're in first. We have 2 2025 firsts. We have all of our 2026 picks. We have 2 2025 seconds. So we have to make a choice, right? Do we just kind of let this team ride? We could kind of just like middle out this year, take our 2 2025 firsts, and then compete in 2025. But I think I'm more inclined to maybe sell a 25 first. I will say one of the 25 first that isn't mine is looking to be really, really early. So I think I'm going to just hold on to that no matter what. But I'm fine selling my first. I'm fine selling the 2 future seconds and building out a roster that is a bit more competitive here, right? Where like Brian Thomas Jr. is a wide receiver 3. We need to change that where we get a real wide receiver 3, maybe another flex guy so we don't have to, rely on guys like Legette or Jameson Williams or Quentin Johnston out the gate. You could talk me into buying a RB2, but I don't mind just punting RB2 and just kind of hoping that 1 or 2 of our rookie wide receivers pop off to the point where they're startable down the stretch. But yeah, I'd say this team is a couple trades away from being in a contending spot. And I think that, when we talk about what's my to-do list between now and week 1, I would say for this team, it would be to trade some of my capital, keep that 25 first that I said was early, and try and compete in 2024. Because there's no reason to have the first, the most dynasty value, and then also have Jalen Hurts and Anthony Richardson and Breece Hall and Chase, and not try and compete for the championship. Now, after that, we have probably my most competitive league here. This is the Mickey Mouse League. This is all the Twitter dynasty analysts you can think of. Paul Patterson's in there. I just actually went on his show. Shout out him and Pure Potential. Jacob Sanderson, we mention him all the time. YZR Akash is in there. You have Dynasty IM is in there. You have Danny from Fantasy Stock Exchange in there, which is actually a trade that I made last night. I made a trade with him last night. I don't know how you guys are going to feel about this. I will say this is a league where I was staring down the barrel of kind of like my roster getting really old. It's a shallow bench as well where I would really like to have I do want to reallocate some of these positions a little bit better, but it's a shallow bench, really competitive league. You have some guys that have like absolute juggernauts out there, and it felt like I had a lot of my eggs in the basket of like trying to win now. I think that's a losing battle in a league like this where it's so competitive. There's a lot of really good teams. So this was kind of a way for me to middle my way out. I'm fine having a roster here where I have, you can see Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. I think in a league like this, that's enough to get you into the playoffs, and you hope that some randomness happens because I realized I wasn't going to be the front runner anyways. So I didn't mind making this trade to get younger. Now, I made a trade that I really did regret, where I traded away Anthony Richardson and I traded for Brock Purdy, and I probably lost that trade looking back on it. It was midseason. I was kind of scrambling. After Richardson goes down, I was just like, you know what? This team's still pretty good. I have Mahomes. I have Tyreek. I don't want to waste this. So I tried to compete even still, and that was a mistake. So to make up for that, we trade away Saquon, which we had Jacobs and Rachaad White already. So I honestly wanted to get rid of one of those 3 running backs. So we get rid of Saquon, which I'm fine with. He's like he'll be good this year, but he's not going to hold value, probably past 2024. We gave away Ayuk and Purdy as like a stack there. I don't mind trading away Ayuk. We already have Tyreek. We have Michael Pittman. We have Pickens, Tyler Lockett. Ayuk is good, but I didn't mind selling him here, with Purdy. I've talked about this before, but I almost think, Purdy's not a guy that I really love because I don't see how he ever becomes a first-round startup value, and I don't see how he ever becomes like a QB1 overall type point per game guy. So he's like in this middling area of like your Tuas and your Goffs, and I just don't love holding those guys. I'd just rather have a cheaper option or one of the really, really premium options. So we trade him. We add Ayuk to make Purdy sexier. And then we trade away Kmet. We talked about earlier, I want Kmet off of my teams, and if he greases the wheels in some fashion, you can have him. So then we get Drake May, who's the best player in this deal. We get, instead of having Purdy, we have May, who has like a real path to first-round startup value. And I also am pretty optimistic on Aaron Rodgers starting week 1 and just using him until May is up to speed and I can start him. Then also I think Minshew will give you startable weeks, so I don't hate that. And then we get Xavier Worthy as someone that can stack to Patrick Mahomes here. So, we're already invested in Patrick Mahomes. We're betting on Patrick Mahomes with this team. So I don't mind Worthy as kind of a fill-in for Ayuk. And then we get a future first. Now, I will say, Danny's team is amazing. Like, it's really, really good. He spent the last, he did a productive struggle. He's just now coming on the other side of that. And he's been reloading for this year heavy. So that's kind of why I was like, you know what? I'm fine just sneaking into the playoffs and hoping I get lucky, because I think Danny's going to be the guy who gets like a bye week and is the favorite. So that 2025 first is sadly going to be most likely late, but I can trade that first before that becomes very clear to the rest of the league, or I can just hold on to it and hope that, things don't go as planned, because even guys that are front runners, sometimes injuries hit and things happen and your team ends up like with the 107 or the 106. So I don't mind holding on to that, because again, this had been a team where I didn't take Xavier Worthy and I didn't take Drake May. I had no seconds and no firsts in this year. So it was just a way to get younger, get more draft picks, get a young QB, get a rookie wide receiver with a ton of upside, and just kind of get younger on the fly while also being a team good enough where, again, with like Mahomes and Tyreek, I think I should still be in the mix. We have Jacobs, we have Rashad White, Pittman at wide receiver 2. So the team's not completely hopeless. We also have, I'm trying to think, we don't really have much off the bench here. I could probably end up trading something, maybe the first Danny got me for a flex spot. But we will see. Again, this was kind of a little bit of a tweener move. I don't love sort of splitting the difference and like trying to rebuild a little bit on the fly. But again, with Mahomes and Tyreek, it felt like I had the luxury to do so, because they might just have enough value over replacement or like wins above replacement to just kind of get me to where I need to go. Now, and by the way, let me know what you guys think about that trade between me and Danny. Again, I think on the market, he probably wins, but you have to remember, in these dynasty leagues, Ayuk isn't getting drafted in the second round of startups like he is in some other leagues. Like, he's more of like a fourth round guy. So it's tough. And to me, Drake May's the best guy in this deal. I get a future first. I get Xavier Worthy. So it felt about even given the context of my team. Then the last trade, or the last team we'll talk through, the League of Mediocre Gentlemen. Now, this is a team, this was my second ever dynasty team. I botched the startup. I drafted like 4 running backs in my top like 6 picks. The startup sucked. I've never gotten even close to winning the championship in this league because I screwed it up so bad in the beginning. And this is just a random Reddit league with a bunch of guys on Reddit. I don't know if they know what I do. I think some of them do. And it's really been a pride thing. I could have just kicked this to the curb and been like, you know what? It's not with analysts. It's not with subscribers. It's probably not really worth me staying in this league, but it is a pride thing. I'm trying to see this thing through. I'm trying to get this thing to really contend here. And this is where the team is. I will say I did make a trade on the clock on this team where I took Leggett after trading for that 211 here. And you can see this is what I did on the clock. He really haggled with me, but I got to respect it. I was trying to move off of Ayuk to get Nico Collins and Leggett. To me, I know Nico Collins and Ayuk are pretty similar, but I thought the gap was big enough for me to get to 211. He said, no, I can't do 211 and Nico straight up for Ayuk. So I had to let him move up in the third round from the 311 to the 306 and then give him a free 406. So whatever, you move up 5 spots in the third round, you get a free 4th. That's pretty much nothing for me. So we end up getting Nico Collins and we end up getting Xavier Leggett. And you can see in this league, after, Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, T. Higgins, I'm pretty weak at wide receiver / flex. So I really wanted to add a guy like Xavier Leggett so that we have 2 upside shots here and like real wide receivers. We also still have Jacoby Myers too. So this team's in a fine spot. Second best dynasty value, 8th best contending value. It's in a fine spot, right? It's not in a beautiful spot, right? The quarterbacks aren't great. Herbert's QB 17, though I think that's pretty crazy. Deshaun Watson, QB 22. It's a hero RB with Bijan Robinson at RB 1. Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, Kyle Pitts, T. Higgins. So to me, it's a team that can compete right away. you could talk me into trading away a second for a flex spot, but I think for me with how I'll be, playing this team, I think we'll just let it ride. We'll go a couple weeks into the season, and from there we can decide if we want to spend future draft capital to make this team better in 2024. But I think this is a team that'll be good enough to sneak into the playoffs and probably make some noise. Now, that is 10 of my Dynasty teams. I think I'm in 12 total, but one of them is Crazy Ambassador, which for the sickos out there that still know what Crazy Ambassador is, it's a league where I went undercover in a Reddit league. We're trying to win it all before anybody blows my cover. And I've made just videos just for that league. Probably in the next week or so, I'll do a video on that league breaking down how the season went, what I did in the rookie draft, all of that good stuff. And then the other leagues I'm in are Devy. So I have like 2 other Devy leagues in the Crazy Ambassador League. So I'm technically in like 13 Dynasty leagues at this point, but I decided to keep it to 10 in this video. There's no reason to go into my Devy teams at this point, because this is already, 40 minutes of me talking through my own teams. I hope I did a good job. I feel like maybe in spots I could have done a better job of really breaking down what players I have and how I finished the year before, but such is life. Everything can't be perfect. I think that was a good recap of my teams, what I did in those rookie drafts. We talked through my startup, so we covered a lot of good stuff there. Let me know how you guys like this kind of video. It seems like a lot of you guys do like when I cover my teams, but I also do feel, I don't know if imposter syndrome is the right word, but I also feel like nobody cares about my teams, right? You just want to know who to buy and who to sell. So let me know how you feel about these, these videos. And as always, if you want access to me for trade advice in the higher tiers on Patreon, if you want rankings to go into your startups with, that can all be found on patreon.com/Ron Stewart. And my rookie rankings, my dynasty rankings, RS grades on there, RS grades for the Devy classes in 2025 and 2026. The higher tiers, like I said, you can ask me your trade questions or your startup questions. So lots of stuff going on there. You can find patreon.com/Ron Stewart in the description and the comment section down below. But if not, I appreciate you just watching this video, leaving a like, and make sure you subscribe. As always, I will see y'all in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold.